Other people started interacting within that racial hierarchy, but they didn't know what to do with Latinos and Asians, right? What do you do with indigenous populations? They're not black. And so we didn't necessarily fit within the black and white binary. Mm-hmm. As we keep looking and understand that, a lot of people will say race is America's original sin. Other people will say greed is America's original sin. I think there's probably a combination of the two that needs to be considered. And what scholars would call racial capitalism is a significant thing. Another scholar will talk about how other major forces are like Christian nationalism and then the religion of whiteness. So there's someone named Michael Emerson who's a friend, and he just wrote a book called The Religion of Whiteness to talk about how essentially white supremacy has been baked into Western Christianity and Christianity in the US, to the point where people's preferences, people's understanding, people's expressions of worship are more white than they're Christian, but it's become so normalized that we don't even see it. It's become an invisible, force within the American church.
Welcome to Good Service. I'm your host, Ben Chung. Each week, I'll be having real, raw, and vulnerable conversations about life, faith, and everything in between, and always over a fire meal. So pull up a chair and let's eat. Folks, welcome back to another episode of Good Service. We are your hosts, Ben.
And Trish.
And we have a very special guest today in the pod. He is a pastor, author, and activist. He is the president of the Asian American Christian Collaborative, aka AACC, whose mission is to equip, empower, and encourage Asian American Christians towards holistic discipleship, helping them unlock and unleash the fullness of their God-given gifts. He's the host of the AACC podcast. He's an executive at 10 by 10, whose mission is to make faith matter more for 10 million young people over the next 10 years. He's a hyphenate among hyphenates. We have Raymond Chang in the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I've never been called a hyphenate among hyphenates.
You're a hyphenate, man. You
known for these words.
Okay.
You are involved in a lot of really cool things. And I love that, man. I love that, the way that God gifts us. He gifts us in layers. We're not just like one-dimensional, like I am just this, and which is, I personally have struggled with that. Like, oh yeah, am I what do I introduce myself as? Am I the dancer, or like hey, I'm a son of God, and then there are other things that I get to do. So Ray, thank you so much. I know you've traveled. You're from Chicago, so you're in town in LA, and we've been trying to actually get this going for a while.
6 months at least.
Yeah, and scheduling, but everything as it's supposed to happen when it's supposed to happen. So yeah, I'm excited for this convo, and shout out to Amy, who is our live studio in studio guest right now. Amy Ayala's she's hanging out. She's been on the pod. That was a great episode, guys. Go back to that episode and listen to it. So as always, so we have a first bite reflection, which is a question that we kick off the conversation with, and this always comes from just the Holy Spirit, just kind of. Just drop in the question to kind of start the flow of it. And so as I was looking at all the stuff that you're doing, there's a lot, and that's why I was like, okay, this guy is a multi-hyphenate, and I know that specifically with AACC, and myself being an Asian American, Korean American growing up, when you don't see people who look like you in certain spaces, you just by default think that that's not for you, or that I don't have a space there. And so that was something that that God was highlighting to me, because I just felt it even in my with you coming on. I was like, oh wow, okay, I already feel like I already know what we're gonna talk about, all the Korean American experience stuff. But and I felt like the Lord was saying, hold on, just just kind of let it sit with you. And I feel like the question, like I wanted to get specific. I wanted to be like, okay, Lord, I'm going to ask Ray a very specific question.
You're trying to get me vulnerable, huh?
Hey, I'm not trying to get you.
Am I going to be crying at the end
I'm
of
not
this
going to try to get you anything other than fed and full on delicious food and whatever else the Lord has for us. But no, yeah. So I wanted to get specific, and I felt the Lord was like, hey, just be curious, and I'll don't. This doesn't need to be the most profound podcast that Ray's been on, and he's just like talk about how this is hitting you. So I felt that the Lord was telling me to just kind of be maybe more simple about it, I guess.
And if you're looking for profundity, that's not going to come from me. So
praise God.
Let's go with simple.
Yeah. Simple is the way to go. So before we get into the question, so we're back at El Pollo Inca.
Oh, I love this place. I haven't had this in like 20 years.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
You know this place?
Of course. I went to El Camino.
No way.
So when we were driving up here, I'm like, this is where I used to like roll.
That's
so this is like my
so
hood.
cool.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I have friends that live like 2 blocks from here.
Okay.
I used to live, just down the road and up on Hawthorne, and so yeah.
Wow. See, look how God
South Bay,
works
all
it
the
out,
way.
man. Okay, so you're already a fan of El Pollo Inca.
Oh yeah, it's so
all right.
good.
Yeah, we are back at El Pollo Inca. And
Yo, El Pollo Inca, you guys need to like give some free food to the pod, okay?
you heard it from Ray Chang, resident native of South Bay, so he carries clout here. And also context, shout out to our good homie Deese, who blessed us with like an abundance of food from our last episode, so we're just continuing to enjoy the feast. So yeah, the question that I feel that we're gonna start off our first bite with is, why does representation matter? Just keep it simple, man.
So am I supposed to take my first bite?
So we're gonna take it together.
Okay.
So we got their rotisserie chicken today. I'm gonna get into
with some of the green sauce.
Yeah,
sauce
so this green
Uh-huh.
sauce is crazy.
We got some French fries.
I find it interesting that like Peruvian food has fried rice, and so I feel like Peruvian food is like a blend of like Latin meets like Asian.
It actually is.
It is, right? It's
Yeah.
like it tastes. There's like Chinese flavors to Peruvian
And a lot
food.
of Japanese influence. So Chinese and Japanese influence is significant in Peruvian food, which is probably why, even though I'm Korean, Peruvian food Peru has some of the top restaurants in the whole world.
I believe it, man. I'm gonna get into the fried rice. I'm gonna dip it in sauce.
I'm realizing how white I am that I didn't know what this food was.
Now you do.
Now I do.
Yeah.
So
Hey, so look at this. Funny that we're talking about representation matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know we were gonna get into like a fusion-y type cuisine, but God knew. He's setting it all up, right? And the fact that there can be fusing of cultures, of flavors, of ingredients, it's because things were represented in a way where it's like, hey, this belongs here.
yeah.
And then when you bring flavors together that you might seemingly think, hey, that's kind of random.
Yeah.
It creates a whole different new thing.
Yeah.
And like I legit Peruvian food's one of my favorite cuisines. And so like God knew we didn't even plan for this, right? And like we're talking about representation and why it matters. But like I don't want to steer you in how you
Steer me
answer
however.
it. But like that, just however you want to answer that. And I would love to hear how that's even like brought you into your line of work and the incredible things that you're doing.
I mean, so I think representation matters up to a point.
Okay.
Right? And so I think representation is the baseline, not the finish line. And the reason, at least for Christians, that it's the baseline is because diversity is God's design.
Yeah.
It wasn't man-made. It wasn't manufactured. From the beginning, God made all the different types of plants, all the different types of animals in the air and in the sea, all the different types of vegetation, and then man and woman.
Yeah.
And when you keep going through the trajectory of Scripture, one of the things that you see is this consistent honoring and celebrating of difference, especially the difference expressed in a variety of cultures, and the constant call towards all cultures to be redeemed, right? Because there's no culture that's perfect. fast forward to the New Testament, and one of the most beautiful things that you see is how, that we're called a body in Christ, and together we reflect the kingdom of God. And we are called to honor that which has the least honor and celebrate that which has kind of the least attention and give it greater honor. And so, when one member is absent, or if one member is cut off, or one member is isolated or shut down, the whole body suffers as a result of it, right? We see in Corinthians how you don't tell the pinky toe that you don't matter. You don't tell the thumb that you don't matter. You don't tell the eye, left or right, that it doesn't matter. All of it matters. And so the question is, how do we embrace the fullness of God's diversity, especially knowing that when eternity comes, we're all going to be hand in hand, sucking carpet, worshiping Jesus. That's right.
Amen.
Unto the glory of God with great joy.
Yeah.
Amen. That's so good.
What like, did you grow up in the 90s?
I grew up, I'm an 80s baby, early 80s baby.
Oh, okay.
So somewhere
Are you
between
trying to age him right now?
No, I have a direction as to why. I'm not just trying to out your age for no reason.
I was born in 83.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm 42 now.
Me too.
Okay, cool.
83?
83
Yes,
for
we
the
are.
win.
The year of the pig.
You're the pig.
You're the
Let's
pig.
go. Let's go. I'm 81, so I'm older than both of y'all.
Yeah, what's your zodiac sign?
Wow.
I'm a rooster.
Oh, rooster.
Yeah. The reason I ask that, because so you'll probably be able to relate to what I'm about to ask. So growing up for you, who were your heroes?
Man, I don't know if I had heroes.
Okay.
But my heroes are the Supermans, the Batmans. They were the ones that never looked like me. And the Bruce Lees were always made fun of. And he was Chinese, so, being Korean, there was always a little bit of shade thrown in other Asian ethnic groups, in the direction of other Asian ethnic groups. But all my heroes were usually blonde-haired and blue-eyed.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with blonde hair, blue
Yeah.
eyes. But I just was like, I never saw anything like me or anyone like me.
Yeah.
So when Simu Liu became Shang-Chi, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is what we should have grown up with. Why didn't we have this before?
Right, yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a different type of empowerment here.
Yeah, totally. So I guess I'm a little bit different from you. Bruce Lee was my hero.
Really? But you grew up in California probably.
I grew up in California.
Okay.
Oh, was
I
Bruce
grew
Lee
up
different in Chicago or something?
In the Midwest, Bruce Lee was more of a,
Like the butt of a joke?
Yeah, a little bit of a butt of a joke.
Okay.
And not everyone saw it like that, but at least in the context that I grew up in, and you only know your own little world.
Yeah.
If you were tied to Bruce Lee, you were viewed as a skinny martial artist who...
That was exactly what I wanted to be. I want to be a skinny martial artist.
Yeah, but that wasn't, it was never that cool, right?
Well, I mean, I get it. I heard the jokes too, like we don't need to repeat them on whatever, but I chose to, I don't know. I guess it's like selective hearing, right? I'm not even hearing that. I just hear that he's dope. And he's a Hollywood star. He is an Asian American leading man, and he's kicking butt. You know what I mean? And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So
wait, this watch is a limited edition Bruce Lee watch.
I might need that watch from you. What do I need to do to get that off of your wrist? I mean, but hey, I'm just kidding. Okay. But okay, so that to me, I'm like, I only have one person that I can look up to I had Bruce Lee posters all over my walls.
Awesome.
I had nunchucks. I had the whole thing. I had Bruce Lee shoes. I'm not even kidding. I was like the biggest Bruce Lee fan. Watched all of his movies. I had all of his movies. And so that was the only thing that I was like, I can aspire to be a Bruce Lee someday.
Yeah.
Until, and I started skateboarding when I was in middle school. And, skateboarding kind of the same. Everybody's white majority, and then nobody who looked like me. So even like I would kind of do it, and I'm hanging out with all the white kids at school because all the white kids were the skaters.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, but then I was flipping through a magazine one time, and I saw this Asian guy in there. I was like, who is this guy?
Who was that?
His name is Daewon Song.
Okay.
Korean.
Really?
The first Korean American professional skateboarder. Best believe the Bruce Lee posters came down, and I put Day One song. Like, not even posters, they were magazine pages. I would just tear them out of the magazine and plaster them out. And my mom came in and was like, "What are you doing?" And that was a whole other story. But I'm not saying that to be weird. I'm just saying that to be like something. I'm 12 years old when I'm 10, 11, 12 years old. No one taught me to do this. No one told me like, "Hey, go look for someone who looks like you," and then like idolize them. It was just something innate that made me feel like, wow, I feel like I can do this now. And so I literally aspired to be a pro skater after I saw Day One song, and which is crazy to me. Like, we're actually like kind of like social media homies now, which is crazy. I'm like, dude, like, you're my hero, my childhood hero.
Oh, he's on social media. Okay,
yeah. And he's still killing it. Like, he's crushing it. So I didn't realize that there was something inside of me that was telling me, that was giving me permission to do something or aspire to do something because I saw someone else who looked like me doing it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we grew up in the same generation.
Yeah. Different states.
Different states. That's important, right? Region matters too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is a difference between California Koreans or California Asian Americans.
Okay.
And everywhere else.
Break it down, bro. Tell me how you feel about that.
No, it's just there's a level of like confidence in like the Korean Californians. Not everybody across the board, right? But if you're especially from like LA and Orange County, it wasn't uncommon for you to grow up as a part of the majority and as a part of a more quote unquote cool majority.
Interesting.
Right? Whereas if you're in the Midwest or rural areas and a lot of spaces in the East Coast, there was not a huge emphasis on, engaging with modern culture. But, even when I went to high school here, because I went to 1 year of high school here, I just felt like the air was different when it came to Asian American. They were the ones that were kind of engaging in hip hop. They were engaging in dancing. They were doing the things in the arts and somewhat rebellious against their parents. But it was because their parents had carved out enough space. And this is one thing that I thought was beautiful when I heard one of the parents say this. He said, "I worked hard and grinded it out in a job that I hated and that I thought, quote unquote, was beneath me, so that you could pursue the arts."
That's amazing.
And he said that to his kid. And I was like, that is so beautiful.
It is.
That is beautiful.
I felt like that was pretty much, it was more common in California than it was everywhere else.
So interesting. I mean, I only know Cali because I grew up here. But I will say, my parents did not encourage me to pursue any of the arts.
Yeah.
Forget arts. Skateboarding, my mom was like, "What is that?" Like,
I mean, skateboarding I can understand.
She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I love this. I don't know what else to do."
I love this.
But see, this is the 90s now, where skateboarding wasn't what it is today. Back then, it was there would literally be like, the skaters would come up with these things, they were like, skateboarding's not a crime. And, like you would go to like, public places, like, no littering, no soliciting and no skateboarding. Wow. And it's like, why is skateboarding like no loitering, no soliciting, no skateboarding?
True, actually, I've never thought about
and
that.
I was like, and then so there was like skaters but skaters by nature, like, I don't know, man. This is rebellion. It's rebellious, because I think because you're being told you can't do it, sinful nature makes you want to do it even more, right? And so speaking of like, you said like cool and like, okay, people in California might be considered the cool ones or whatever. I don't know. For me, I definitely rebelled. And I think that comes from so many other layers other than just wanting to be cool.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I could do anything else. I didn't grow up doing well in school. I didn't get straight A's like my sister did. I'm the middle kid, so like there's probably some level of like,
I've been neglected,
I guess, but then it's just like, I'm just gonna go do me, and my sister was like kind of the poster child of like, she played flute and cello and all the extracurriculars, straight A's, and I'm over here like C's and D's. I don't do my homework. I'm like,
school, why?
Yeah, why? But then like,
where did you go to school? Where'd you grow up?
Here in LA. Well, in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay, so
Yeah. So yeah, like when you're a kid, your reality is shaped by the response you get to the things that you do.
That's right.
Or don't do.
Yes.
So I'm not doing well in school, so my grades show this, so that my parents treat me like this, and then the teachers at school talk about me like this. So I'm just like, I guess that's who I am. I guess this is what life is like. So then without you realizing, you pick an alternative route. You're like, well, then if I can't do this, maybe I gotta go do this. And then this gives me a different result. It's fun, and I enjoy it. Well, I'm getting pretty good at it. People are recognizing me for this, and so like, then you start leaning into this identity thing of, oh wow, this gives me a response that I like. Let me lean into this more. So I find it interesting that, I didn't grow up in Chicago, in the Midwest experience. I don't know what that's like. And I love that you're saying, like, parents these days are encouraged, like, hey, I did this so that I can afford you the opportunity to go pursue something that's like more of your dream.
And there are a lot that still don't, right?
Sure.
There are still a lot of Asian American, especially Korean American parents that are like, you got to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or something in software now, or technology.
Yeah.
But, there's a growing percentage. And it didn't mean that there weren't cool Korean kids in other states and other places. And groups that were like within that were kind of respected or viewed, and valorized. But there's just something different about the air in California where you just don't feel as much of the need to prove yourself than in other places.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Trish, you grew up in California too.
Well, until I was like 9.
Okay.
And then I moved to North Idaho, which was like only white people and really and potatoes.
And potatoes.
And really small town, like
shout out
10,000
to
people, I think,
potatoes.
when we first were living there. But wasn't cultured whatsoever. I got cultured when I came back to LA.
Yeah.
My dad worked in the industry, so we came back and forth all the time. But no, I mean, I don't have that same, like, it was very much singular, we're like in a very closed out place. I mean, still today when you go up there, it's like, can y'all get some color around here? Like, this is
Can I ask you a question?
out of control.
No judgment here.
No
Just
judgment.
maybe a little judgment. How about a little judgment?
Sure, I judge it, so it's okay.
So growing up, not around a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
And you just said you grew up with a lot of just white people who looked like you.
Yes.
At what point did you find that to be weird? Like, because it's just your reality, right?
A kid came from what's that program where the kids come in high school and they're like coming from another country?
The study abroad, exchange program.
And this kid came in, it was an African American kid. And for me, it was no big deal because obviously I was around that kind of stuff coming into California.
Right.
And like my parents, Lutheran church was a thing back in my early years of life. And it was full of diversity. So like, it's not that I didn't grow up around it, but where we were shaped, from 9 on, it was just white kids, and they were just horrible people to be like, they just were horrible to anything they didn't understand.
Yeah.
And any kind of difference. And I thought I was the kid that would go and always find the outcasts. Like, even if it was the white kid that was the outcast, I was always looking for the kids that, so I gravitated towards difference always. Like,
that's
hey,
interesting.
like, let's be friends, type of thing. So for me, I didn't see color. I never have seen color. And I still think it's crazy what we see even now. But it's wild to me, actually.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really cool. But to your statement that you don't see color.
Yeah.
I used to think that was the right thing to say.
I don't think it's the right thing to say. It's what I feel.
I see. Okay, got it. So
it's not a right thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm not politically correct. You should know that
yeah.
already.
No, I know that. And that's not what I was trying to get at. I know that's not what
There's
you're
no
using.
political
You see
correctness
color,
to
but
me.
you don't demean people
That's
based
right.
on
Like,
color. That's
obviously
what
I
you're trying
can
to
see
say.
difference,
Yeah.
right? But
Like, you can
to
see the
me,
difference between me and Ben because I'm better looking,
yes,
right?
like, I mean, but what I look
Until
at
we get onto the dance floor, and then I just
Yeah.
look like an idiot. He looks amazing.
but what I know, like your roots versus your roots, or like what difference is in your DNA. No, I see you both as male, independent people who are leading things in their lives. Like, I just think that if we train people to keep looking at culture and keep looking at skin and keep looking at this stuff, we're creating the divide. Like, we've got to stop doing that and let people come together and love each other all the way through. That's my full heart. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm naive, but that is my full heart.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here. I definitely have racist like tendencies. Oh, and praise be to God, I'm not saying currently, and I'm like embrace. It's like I grew up racist.
Yeah, I get that.
I didn't think I was.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was being racist.
Of course not.
Because my parents were racist. Just straight up. But I'm just going to say it how it is. I mean, like, Asian folks, I'm not going to talk about anybody else because I'm Asian, so I could talk about Asians. Like, first generation immigrant, like, immigrants.
We're gonna have a lot to dig in on.
Let's go. And this is not, okay, I'm not here to bash my culture.
Yeah. No, say it. Bring it up.
I have a point to this. You know, my parents immigrated here in the mid 70s from Korea, and they came here during a time where they're just trying to make it. They're just trying to fit in. They're just trying to, you know, kind of fly under the radar. Like, hey, we're just trying to be at peace here. So when you come into a situation that you feel like you're a foreigner to, there's a tendency, maybe not so much now, maybe there still is, but there's a tendency to be like, I'm not trying to rock the boat. I'm just trying to, hey, is it cool if I'm here? I know this is not my place, but is it cool if I'm here? So my parents them coming in that way, they taught us that. Be cool with these people. These people are a little bit beneath us. These people we want to stay away from. And like, well, I guess that's what it is. That's what my parents are teaching me. This is how I'm being raised, right? So when you are raised in this home and then you go out into the world and then you see those people that your parents were talking about, without you realizing, you're gonna have
preconceived notions.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure. My parents were racist too, but I didn't pick up that trait. Like, it did not sit on me.
That's
and
awesome.
my kids, like, if you meet each and every one of my children, they didn't pick up on them either, because I didn't perpetuate that trait.
Yeah.
You know,
that's awesome.
I do think that we have to take some responsibility and say, hey, me as a person, cool, that happened in my life, that my parents, this, that, and the other, but this is not according to how God calls us, and this is not who he says we are. And as far as he's concerned, we are all foreigners in this
That's
land.
right. That's correct.
Because we belong to heaven.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
To me, and it's not about being politically correct, I mean, this is a big heart thing for me, because, you know, I married an Armenian. I was in a completely different culture, a completely different thing, and I loved it. Like, I loved so much about the culture. So much about the culture. It was fun. They love each other. They dance. Everything's big and loud and wild, you know, and, you know, white people are boring and can't dance. And,
I know some fun white people.
I mean,
a lot of fun white people.
I can be fun, but it's got to be drawn out of me. You know what I mean? It's not my second nature.
Well, so I love that, and that's also beautiful. Like that. Praise be to God that you didn't soak that in and it didn't come out even subconsciously. I didn't know what my worldview actually was until I experienced differently. I'm like, my mom used to say this stuff about this people group. I don't think she's right, because that's not what I'm experiencing.
That's not your experience,
you know? So, and then talking about being transformed by Christ, then we get a whole different understanding, but I didn't even come into a relationship with Jesus until later in life. So then I'm kind of going through life thinking like, oh yeah, I'm not racist. And then like when something happens, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they do. And I'm like, wait, what did I just say? You know what I mean? Like, where did that come from? You know,
but
like,
there's always a check. Did you notice what you just said? Wait, where did that come from? Like, something innately inside you knows that that's not, like, why did I just say that?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. So I think, I say all of this because though I was doing what you might consider cool and rebellious or whatever, I was still othered by the communities that, like, I think both. I was othered by my own community.
Because you weren't living up to
like, why aren't you getting straight A's and why aren't you playing violin? I'm like, because I can't, or I don't think that's lame. And then now I'm hanging out with the white skater kids. It's like, oh, he's the Asian guy. He's the Asian skater. So I'm like, okay, I guess I don't really belong anywhere. And then that actually just made me more angry. And so then, like, that would come out with me just like fighting all the time. Like I was a kid who grew up fighting because I was just like, oh, I'll show you. You can't treat me like that. So then you overcompensate and go the other way. And like, I feel like, that experience, it shaped me, and I feel like it could have really gone deep because I knew the trajectory that I was on, like after I started skating and then hanging out. And then that's when in the 90s, at least here in LA in the Valley, that's when Asian gangs started to become a big thing. And then it was not only cool to be an Asian gangster, it was kind of like we felt like we needed to, because I was during like the 92 riots. And so there was a lot of racial division. And so it's a tribal thing. It's we have to stick to our own to protect one another. It's like a survival thing. And so that became like, bro, there was like, I've been in situations where it was clearly racially fueled, like violence and aggression. And I just thought that was the new norm. And so I'm like, I better stick to my own because this is a survival thing, and praise God that it's not that like that anymore. Well, I want to pull that back. It's not as overtly out there like that, today. But, as I kind of, and then I had a tragic event happen in my life where, I mentioned this before, when my dad got shot, and then I was like, whoa, hold up. Like, I need to wake up. Something's got to change. And then, Jesus comes into my life, and then there's a whole transformation thing. And then, so going back to even the statement of like, oh, like not seeing color, because then that's what I thought too. Like, oh no, we're all the same. We're all the same. Like it doesn't matter like what color your skin is. Like we're all the same. And there's a lot of good in that. But I think I'm learning more that like, no, God intentionally made us different. Not to ignore it, but to embrace it. Right. And so that's where like I'm like even now, man, like because there's a lot of racial division, and I'm sure and in your work you've addressed and worked through a lot of that. And so I'd love to hear from you, Ray, like, I mean, we can go a little bit testimony route, but like at what point, I mean, did you grow up Christian, like in a Christian home? What's up, Stewards? So people have been asking us how they can support the podcast, and the best way for you guys to support us is by joining our Patreon. As a subscriber, you're going to get exclusive content such as Q&As, bonus interviews, hot takes, vlogs, and so much more. This show is a labor of love, and we do have financial needs to keep the podcast going. So if you would like to join our Patreon, log on to patreon.com/goodservicepodcast and join our community today. We love and appreciate you so much, Stewards. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I grew up 7th and 8th generation Christian. So my family was converted before the Pyongyang revivals.
Okay.
And so during the Pyongyang revival, prior to the Pyongyang revivals in Korea... Can you
explain what that is?
Yeah, so the Pyongyang revivals were probably arguably some of the largest revivals, one of the largest revivals in the whole world. Wow. People don't often know about it because it happened in Korea. And so, you could argue that it rivaled the Great Awakenings in church history. But many people aren't aware of it because it happened in Korea. And that's a part of like the chip on my shoulder, because the Korean War was called the Forgotten War, which drives me nuts. And in Christianity Today came up with an article a couple years ago about how there was a forgotten founder of World Vision. And because World Vision started in Korea, and it was post Korean War. And there's this invisibility to Koreans globally, But I've always grown up in the church, you know, as a church kid throughout my whole life. You know, my parents were active within the immigrant Korean church. We experienced all the highs and all the lows. We experienced the beauty of community, the beauty of sacrifice, the beauty of like meddling in each other's lives. One of my friends is a seminary professor. His name is Max Lee, and he's actually kind of developing a theology of meddling and saying, actually, that's what we see in the Bible. That we're called to meddle in each other's lives in a way that we agitate each other towards holiness.
Wow.
And
So
we're
good.
in community
It's
together.
actually so good.
Yeah, I think so too, because we're so accustomed to having our own space.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing our own thing. We can choose to opt out. But even one of my other friends is a Greek theologian, and he's half British and half Greek. And when his mom died, he said his British side of the family, and he's a super introvert, his British side of the family came in at exactly the time that the memorial service was supposed to take place, and then they left exactly when the memorial service was supposed to end. His Greek side of the family stayed for
Days.
weeks.
I was gonna say days.
Yes. And he's the type of person that if you put him in a room with two people, he's gonna shrink because he's like, there's too many people here, my energy's being sucked.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, I asked, because I'm always trying to pay attention to culture. I want to be a student of culture.
Yeah.
And I asked him, what did you prefer? You know, because like I know you're an introvert, and I'm curious, did you prefer like knowing when people came in and out, or did you prefer when people just came in early? They came in days before the memorial. In fact, I think some people were at his house like hours after his mother passed, and then they were there for weeks after, feeding him and getting in his space and asking him how he's doing, even though he didn't want to talk about it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, I prefer the latter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's something about a community that's in your face
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference. I call
It's
it
true.
I call it a form of intrusive hospitality.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we
so
don't
good.
have
That's
that.
cool.
I just told a girl I was discipling this week. She was pulling away for a bit. She's going through a hard time. And I said, if you don't answer the phone, I'm going to turn into an intrusive hospitality person. And I'm going to come kick down your door. So
You
just
said
fair
that?
warning.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
I said,
job.
just
Wow.
fair warning, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And then she surfaced.
I love it.
And so, I mean, I'm a fan of that too.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's what accountability is.
Yeah.
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 Accountability don't feel good.
Yeah.
It makes you uncomfortable, but it forces you to get to the thing that you said you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you don't have accountability partners by force. We choose. We're like, dude, can you keep me accountable for this?
Yes.
It's like there's an invitation there.
Yes.
And then when you keep me accountable, it's like, ugh, like, why did I invite this?
Yeah.
It's like, because you wanted it.
Yeah,
You know that this is what's going to get you to the vision that you had, and this is going to get you closer to that.
That's right. That's right.
That's really cool. Intrusive hospitality, is that what you called it?
Hospitality, that's dope. I have a word
Wow,
for it now.
wow.
So good.
Okay, so, all right, so then on like you pursuing, I guess, ministry, we'll just call it ministry, and then I know there's a lot of layers to that. For you, well, I mean, I guess like I grew up in the 90s too. Yeah, my youth pastor, you know, he's Korean. I went to a Korean American church. So I'm like, okay, cool. I guess being a youth pastor is possible.
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
though it didn't seem cool to me at all because my youth pastor, I mean,
He was a little bit of a dork.
hey, no, not at all. The coolest guy ever. You know, he played basketball. He had some b-boy skills too. But like, yeah, I don't know. I just like, pastors are lame, man. You know, that's just what I thought. But you know, no, actually, like in a very real way, that even also really shifted. So my youth group experience was very it was very formative,
Yes.
man, because though I thought like I didn't like going to church,
Yeah.
I would ditch church.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
my parents would take us to church, and I looked like I'm going in, and I'd go to the liquor store and play Street Fighter. You know, like I was that kid. And then, but also there was like a safety thing because there's like I said, in the 90s, there's gangs, and the gangs were at church too. I'm like, I don't want to go to church to have my life threatened. I'm like, I'd rather go play video games. But I started going to a church that wasn't so much the case, and people were really warm and really kind, and you know, so I'm like, okay, this feels safe, you know.
Yeah.
And then my youth pastor, like kind of you know, just if I were to judge his packaging, it's like, okay, you got the glasses on, your hair parted to the side, you got your white shirt and tie tucked into your pants. I'm like, okay, this guy
just described me. I see. Okay.
I see what you remember.
Hold on. That was not what I was. That was not what I was trying to do. That was not what I was trying to do. I promise you. I love you. I love the way you dress.
Yeah, right.
But I judged him based off of like, okay, you're the pastor.
Yeah.
You look like a pastor. And then, and then he's like really good at basketball. I was like, oh shoot, this guy could hoop. And then like, one dinner, we had dinner at like one of the youth kids' houses, and it was like someone just started playing music and he just started breaking. I was like, this guy could break? So then I'm like, okay.
You underestimated him.
I just judged him, Outside of like, okay, now you're kind of cool. What really was transformative was I also had a prejudgment on church people, pastors, like, oh, you're here to judge me for my sin, so I better leave all that back here, turn down the bass of my car. I don't want to be listening to rap music as I'm pulling into the parking lot because they're, youth pastors, but hey, you shouldn't be listening to that stuff, So I really thought that like, man, church people, pastors are here to point out my sin. So I better not come looking sinful. And he was not like that. He was actually really kind to me. And this was at a very like pivotal, like crucial time in my life. I was 14. My dad had just gotten shot that earlier that year. And so I'm coming in to, this youth group because I just feel safe here and it's fun. People are nice. And, he and his wife were very like, they loved on me. And that was new. I'm like, why are you guys so nice? But I'm here for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going, like, I'd rather be here than someplace that I feel judged or whatever. And, he would pick me up from school, take me to the park. We would go shoot hoops, and just like, he was like a friend. And so, as a boy, you don't realize what's happening to you. You're not like, wow, he's like being a big bro, or he's like fathering me. I was just like, this feels good. And then, and he wasn't shoving gospel down my throat. He was like, have you repented? And I'm just like, what's that? You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't have even resonated with me. I'm like, I feel like back then, if you said, have you repented? I'm like, oh, you're judging me again. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably the language that I thought he would be saying. But I saw like his personhood. I saw like, cool, this guy can have fun. He does some cool things, but that's like not even the stuff that's important. What's really translating is how you're kind, how you're loving, how you're patient and hospitable. Like, he like, you're like, hey, you can just crash here and we'll tell your mom, we'll take you to school tomorrow. I was like, wow, okay, I get to sleep over my pastor's house and it's fun, So like, I see even that too of ministry. How I used to think pastors are just like this and they just judge you like that. They only care about this. And so I'm curious for you, what was your experience growing up, how you grew up? And then was there a figure or was there something kind of like that for you to feel like you wanted to step into pursuing the various types of ministries that you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been on this journey trying to figure out what's most shaped me and what's most formed me throughout my life, especially in my childhood, because as you get older, your memory starts to wane. You just don't remember everything that you want to remember. And so I've been trying to be a little more intentional about thinking about my upbringing, the influences and the fact, and it's really hard to remember some things that I thought I would never forget. But when I look back, we kind of ended up at every church that split. You know what I mean? That was not an uncommon thing. Totally. Because the immigrant church, especially the Korean church, one of the only places where people could experience a sense of dignity in a society that didn't consider them was the church. And so I remember growing up, and it was the only question I was asked was, are you Chinese or Japanese?
Right.
Now I walk around and everyone assumes that my Chinese and Japanese friends are all Korean because Koreans are taking over everything, right? Globally,
Right.
BTS is number one. You have Blackpink, you have K-pop Demon Hunters, which is probably the first Korean American K-pop expression.
Yeah.
And everything is changing, and then we have a variety of Asian Americans who are out there doing some really incredible stuff. But I think for me, I internalized a sense of self-righteousness that needed to be pursued because I didn't understand grace.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I thought that Christians should appear perfect in the world, even though in my head I knew that I was a sinner in need of God's grace and forgiveness.
Yeah.
But I never knew how to internalize that because all I heard growing up were essentially lectures that were packaged as sermons telling me how to think, but not telling me how to internalize what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to figure out how to actually believe. And that was a long journey until my late 20s where I found out, there's a different way to live. There's a different way to commune that actually the Korean American church has the baseline right of being more disposed and towards community, but then didn't get the forgiveness and grace part right. And to your point about niceness, I'm really concerned right now about the narrative around empathy being an unhealthy or an ungodly or even a toxic thing, because if we read Philippians and other parts of Scripture right, it was God's empathy, sympathy, love, and mercy that led him and compelled him to send Jesus to us as a sacrifice for our sin. And if we truly believe in grace, then we can be fully empathetic and fully available for the moment of vulnerability when people finally come to the realization that they need something outside of themselves in order to make sense of this world and to get out of the hole that they're in. And those opportunities only come if you are nice and if you are kind. And people have the Bible didn't tell you be nice, they tell you be kind. And I'm I don't know if there's much of a difference between the two. And it doesn't mean that when you offer a harsh word that...
Well, the fruit's not different.
Yeah.
Right? The fruit's not
That's
different.
right. And so I'm just if you offer a harsh word, make sure that it's wrapped in love. Make sure it's motivated by love. And what you'll find is, they might not see it as nice in the moment, but they'll see it as a nice thing in the future.
Or they'll at least feel held and supported and safe while you're having to deliver truve in love.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, that's the sauce. I think we have a whole generation of things that we've broken these things apart and separated them, and we're trying to walk with armor without what the Lord did was give us both.
Yes.
And if we don't have both, like you're saying, empathy, it's such a beautiful thing. Mercy and justice.
That's right.
It's not one or the other.
That's right.
It's good.
But to your point, to the question about who I looked up to, it was my grandma who spent every night praying on her knees for me. She's my hero. She's the one that would quote Revelation and say, hey, faithful unto death, be faithful unto death. Jesus is worth it. Every time I left the house, or every time I came into the house, that was her greeting to me. 죽도록 충성, 죽도록 충성, 죽도록 충성. And I was like, okay, I finally understood it when she passed away. It really is a faithfulness to God unto our dying breath. And then all the aunties and uncles, whether they knew me well or they didn't know me at all, how they would surround us with care and love, support us when we went on mission trips or to different kind of activities. Even if I didn't speak Korean all that well, that they would, mess with me and they make jokes at me in Korean. And I just knew, even though we didn't fully understand each other, that they cared about me and that they had my back. It's people like that, my parents, and so on and so forth.
So good.
Yeah. AACC. Can you did you start, or are you a founder of
Yeah.
that? So what is the work, and what is the mission and vision of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we want to see Asian American Christians establishing their spiritual and cultural heritage. Basically, we are finding that a lot of Asian American Christians have to live a bifurcated life. They have to separate their Christian expression from their Asian American identity. And so when they ask the question, what does it mean to be an Asian American Christian? They're like, I don't know. And a part of the work is, well, we know that, prayer is a significant part and contribution to the global church, especially the early morning, high energy, extremely passionate, prayers. I truly believe in what a lot of people have said is like, the church in Korea was built on prayer. And I totally believe that.
Yeah.
We also know that community is a significant expression. I tell people, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I have a great community. I have a great community. And I'm like, you ain't seen community until you go to a minority church. Like, that's real community. And then two, like, there's a unique expression within, the Korean kind of diaspora of what community looks like, because like, while there is unhealth and negative expressions of faith and interactions, there's also some beautiful expressions of solidarity, of sacrifice, of being in one another's lives. And as you go, you go down the list. And so one of the things that we really want to see is that. But we started because during the pandemic, people were repeating the rhetoric around Kung Flu and China virus. And, we knew that rhetoric was going to spark violence and hate towards Asian Americans, because that's been the story of Asian America from a long time ago. Oh, we have to be suspicious and skeptical and concerned and protect ourselves from this Asian invasion. And then it was, how do we get rid of, the Chinese people and prevent them from coming in and entering into our country. And then it was the Japanese. How do we round them up and put them into concentration camps, and so on and so forth. And so our organization started mostly because we were starting to hear it from pulpits and pews, that people were making fun and repeating these jokes, which we knew rhetoric always precedes violence against the community. And so we put out a statement. That statement got significant traction, and then we formalized into an organization, do some work around solidarity work with Black and Latino communities. And then to figure out, okay, how do we actually help Asian Americans live a more integrated life?
That's good.
Because it's so hard to articulate what it means to be an Asian American Christian. But, when you talk about Black Christianity and Black Christianities, there is so much more texture to grab onto, so many more handles to grab onto, that Asian American Christianity is still trying to sort through some of that.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much that I want to reference to what you just said, but even let's talk about this podcast. When Kevin and I started the podcast, this is faith-based, hosted by two Asian guys. And Kevin and I, we both grew up out here, you know what I mean? So we grew up around a lot of diversity and things like that. And we never thought, like, should we do this? Can we do this? We're just like, yeah, like, whatever. We're just going to turn on the microphones and be ourselves. And then we realized that the Asian American audience is gravitating towards us. It's like, hey, there are these two guys that are like Asian, and they're like pretty raw and just, talking about their faith. And so we have, not to say that, dude, praise God, our demo is very diverse, actually. Like we have listeners all over the place. I mean, that's because that's just God, you know what I mean? God breathing on it. But then there's also this like, people feel that they like, whoa, like there's safety here that I can identify, I can relate to. And so even with that, like we experienced this like, wow, like we're like being a voice for the Asian American Christian community. You know what I mean? And I don't see that as I guess it's more a good thing than it is bad. I was going to say, oh, it's like, it's neutral. Like, no, it's good. but it just shows that there's still something there. There's still work to be done, and I look at forward progress. You mentioned all this stuff, the K-pop and the K-food, all the stuff, right? And they're like, well, yeah, we're going forward. And I used to, because I grew up in the Korean American church. I had all kinds of issues with it, and gossip, and it's racist still, and like you're Korean before you're Christian, you're putting tradition before the gospel. So I was like, oh man, I'm not doing this Korean church stuff anymore. So then I actually ended up hating on the Korean church, and I was like, I'm going to multi-ethnic churches only, diverse churches only, because that's what heaven's gonna look like anyway, But then I ended up like kind of really judging, like going the other extreme of like looking over at these like homogenous churches. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing it wrong over here, because that's not how heaven's gonna be. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that too, because there still are like black churches, Latino churches, Asian churches, white churches, so do you view that, is there a problem there, or is like, what are your thoughts towards that versus the diverse multi-ethnic church?
I think one of the big challenges is that we are racially illiterate in the church. And so we don't have an understanding about what the difference is between culture, ethnicity, and race. And so, and because we don't have an understanding of the deep history of race, we don't understand that it's mostly about how we create hierarchies that are externally named or internalized and kind of create an operating system within us, and then shape the ways in which we value different communities, the way people look, the ways of thinking, of being, of relating to one another, food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think on the one hand, we have to understand that race is a construct that has been developing and evolving and moving since since the 1400s, and a big part of that was driven by the church through papal bulls. It was what created the hierarchy between white and black that justified the enslavement of black bodies to serve at the pleasure of white people. And so as that evolved, other people started interacting within that racial hierarchy, but they didn't know what to do with Latinos and Asians, right? What do you do with indigenous populations? They're not black. And so we didn't necessarily fit within the black and white binary. As we keep looking and understand that, a lot of people will say race is America's original sin. Other people will say greed is America's original sin. I think there's probably a combination of the two that needs to be considered. And what scholars would call racial capitalism is a significant thing. Another scholar will talk about how other major forces are like Christian nationalism and then the religion of whiteness. So there's someone named Michael Emerson who's a friend, and he just wrote a book called The Religion of Whiteness to talk about how essentially white supremacy has been baked into Western Christianity and Christianity in the U.S. to the point where people's preferences, people's understanding, people's expressions of worship are more white than they are Christian, but it's become so normalized that we don't even see it. It's become an invisible force within the American church. And so for me, in the backdrop of knowing that we swim in racialized waters, or waters that race is still a factor, whether it's at the individual level, at the communal level, at the interpersonal level, or at the societal level, we need minority-led immigrant churches to flourish and thrive until we solve the race problem. When you look at multi-ethnic churches, the vast majority of multi-ethnic churches are led by a white pastor with a growing minority population. They'll say that 20% of a church is 20%. If there's 20% diversity in a church, it's a diverse church, so they'll call it a multi-ethnic church. But about 80% of those multi-ethnic churches are led by a white pastor, right? Nothing wrong with white people becoming pastors, but we're just kind of looking at the sociological realities.
Sure.
When you look at the majority of diversity in the churches, it's almost never because a large group of white Christians are going to minority-led, minority-dominant churches. It's almost always because minorities are going to white-led and white-dominant churches. So the diversity only flows in one direction. It doesn't flow in both directions. You might get one person here or there, but most of the pastors that I'll talk to, including one pastor here, he's an Asian American pastor. He's like, man, I feel like I'm attracting everyone. White people come and visit, but then they never stay because we don't do things in a way that they're necessarily familiar with, but they're familiar for all of us.
Yeah.
And so I think that minority-led, minority-dominant churches are still necessary. One, because they preserve culture and they help kind of promote a diversity of kind of faith expression. But two, we haven't solved the problem of white supremacy both inside and outside the church. And until we do, we're never going to go anywhere.
Jesus is the only solve to that, unfortunately. And until we make that the center of everything we do, it's going to be until we die. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad because I hate to say that, but it's like, well, I mean, we're going to make effort, right? Like what you're doing is super amazing because it's like identifying here is this like huge gap that we need to fill. And you're standing in that gap and saying, we're going to educate, we're going to build relationship around all this. But like, this is hitting a topic that I've been ruminating with in my prayer life recently is like, Lord, teach us because we are killing each other.
Yeah.
And this is ugly. And it's, we may not be what they were doing before, hanging blacks from trees and doing these things, but we are insidious in the way that we are in relationship with one another in so many ways that are just as ugly and just as disgusting. And to me, like I keep asking the same question, what will bring us, like it's not uniformity because he's not trying to bring uniformity, he's trying to bring unity. He's not trying to make us all the same. We were never created to be all the same.
Yeah.
But he does call us to unity. And why is it that we can't be different and unify?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. Like, I love going to other churches that are totally not my everyday, you know, because I love to see how others express themselves and worship the Lord. Or worship is one of my favorite things. And going and listening to, like, music I can't understand, but I will listen and enter in because the presence is there and it's amazing to me. And I just wish that we could find a way to where it's not this big, like, feeling like it's such a big gap, but it's like everybody deserves to be shoulder to shoulder together. You know what I mean? I think it's important to have, like you said, preserve culture and these things, but I also think, like, can we stop, like, looking at just what makes us different and start looking at, like, how do we start to unify together under the commonality of the gospel? You know? Yeah,
it makes me think, because to your point, Trish, where it's like only Jesus is going to fully solve this problem. You know, it makes me think about our current socio-political climate of who is going to get into office that's going to clean all this up. Nobody. And you know, with man, you know, when Charlie Kirk passed, I was like really just like confused. I'm like, God, what am I supposed to feel right now? What am I supposed to pray for? Do I pray that this stop? Do I pray that someone come in and fix this? Do I pray? Like, what am I supposed to pray? And I just remember the day that it happened, I was just driving and I was like, Lord, like, when does this stop? And the Holy Spirit's like, it's not. Yeah. It's going to get worse.
It's going to be worse and worse.
It's going to get worse until Jesus comes back. So, and not to be all like doom and gloom, like, oh, well, then what's the point of anything? Why even try? That's the whole point of, like, becoming more like Christ is why we are called to try. Because it shapes us to become the more like the person of Jesus. Not that we're going to change all of this. Only Jesus is going to change all of this. But for us to fight for causes and to have a burden that like makes us like, man, this is not okay. We gotta aim towards a better direction. Yeah. That's shaping us to be more like Christ, not like I'm gonna be the guy to change this. Like, you know, because then it makes us God, you know, like, hey, I was the one, my ministry, my organization, we solved this problem. You know,
it's all rooted in idolatry.
Right.
If you really think about it, it's my race is better than your race. My culture is better than your culture. It's always idolatry. Who can, you know, and that's the scary part for me. It's not, and I understand I'm probably super naive in this conversation, but I think from a standpoint of like a woman who preaches the gospel, right? I know a little bit about, you know, people talking some smack, you know?
It's called sexism.
Yeah. And
yeah,
we have a word for that,
yeah.
you know?
Right.
And she's got short hair, she's this, she must be a lesbian, she must be this, she must be that, right? All the things. But, you know, the Holy Spirit, I used to get super offended by all of that stuff, and I kept hearing the Holy Spirit tell me, that's the bait of Satan. If you keep getting offended every time they're calling out your difference, then you're never going to be used, because you can't. You keep breaking, and I want to use you, right? So I'm like, okay, Lord, I see it, but I just all this solves, like, I know in the next couple of years, like, my girls are going to graduate high school and I want to travel and evangelize and stuff. And I'm like, how crazy is that, this white girl going around countries that she doesn't know? But I just want to like roll up into villages and like go be amongst the people and love on them and be a testimony of Jesus. Because I think that is what breaks the yoke. All of our cool education and all the things, I think it's all important. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, point them to Jesus. And how do we love each other like Jesus? And how do we stop? Like, I just refuse to participate in it. And if my one thing at least affects my dominion, then I've made some great headway, right? I maybe will hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant, right?
Hey Stewards, we all need prayer, so we're excited to announce our partnership with Seedling. Seedling is an online platform for churches, content creators, and different ministries to connect to their communities through the power of prayer. There'll be real people on the other side, like myself and Ben. We're also logged on. We'll be there to intercede for you through voice and through text. Please log on to seedling.so so we can get connected through prayer. Thank you guys.
You know, I also think that in this like super woke culture, that it swings the extreme the other way. Where there is like, when you said that, like my mind went to the whole like white savior thing. It's like, oh, so you're gonna go into these countries, into these places that don't speak your language, but you think you can do it because you're white, and that's a complete fallacy as well. And that's just as wrong to be like, to judge somebody like, also. You think you can do it because you're white and because you have this privilege. Like, hey, that's another extreme where like we're, like you said, unity versus uniformity. Like, we need to link arm in arm with one another. If the gospel is being advanced, it's a yes and amen. Like, it doesn't matter who is or isn't doing it based off of their skin color or gender, whatever. Like, it's like, hey, the gospel is being advanced and we are being led by the Holy Spirit and we're surrendering and submitting under the lordship of Christ. If that's what's happening, then we should be all for that, right? Not like, no, you should let someone who is of a minority be the one to do that. You know, like, well, is that person even called to do it? You know, like, is there an anointing on that person? I think that's where I'm being challenged. I'm challenging myself. Well, no, I think the Holy Spirit's challenging me with it. Like, not that race is like, it doesn't matter. It does matter. But then for me to think, well, certain races should be doing or should get more placement. I don't know, man. I'm still learning, you know. I'm like, Lord, teach me.
And I also think what you said earlier, like, what's the point? I actually do think He's called us for dominion. I mean, He says in Genesis what we were here for is to rule and domain this earth. And so I do think it's our responsibility to bring heaven to earth. And to fix the gaps of the things that we see brokenness, sin doing amongst the people, and saying, hey, guys, you know, and do the best we can with what he's gifted us to do. So, I mean, like what you're doing and the work you're pouring into the community and the things that your heartbeat is saying, no, this is what God's called me to do, and I'm going to walk it. You know, there's favor on that, and there's fruit on that, and it's not in vain, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the work of justice is ultimately for the sake of reconciliation and shalom, right? We want to see wholeness.
Yeah.
And the reason we pursue justice is because something's fractured or something's broken. The challenge is if we've normalized injustice so much that we don't even see it as injustice. And I see that happen so much.
I mean, I think you see it so much right now. Like such a callous, like just the way people talk to each other online and the whole thing, the white Christian nationalist things, like, I mean, my skin crawls when I listen to that stuff, and it's like, don't put me in that category, you know, but that is true. It's like, these are the conversations, though, I think, as leaders and as people who the Lord is standing in gaps, need to come around a table together and continue, because we are shaping our communities. And whether or not it feels like it's in little micro steps, those things affect the next generation and the next generation. And so it's very important.
Ray, I know I believe you were serious, but then like I think there's joke, like, you know, okay, so the whole dancing thing, right? You were like, oh, you know,
I'm terrible.
You texted me yesterday. You said you make us look cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I've been watching your videos.
Cool.
You make us look good. Well, you gotta remember, I grew up in the era where like we just weren't cool, right? And I was like, okay, because I had my friends, you know, and then we had our own kind of definition of cool, but then I was always ching-chonged, you know? And I was just like, and I was always kind of mistaken for something else. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, and I've been asked that question a lot, especially after we won ABDC. You know, all the Asian publications came running after us, like, we need to interview you guys. And it was always a question of like, so like, how does it feel to be, you know, representing Asians in the way that you are? And very truthfully, we were unaware that that's what we were doing. We didn't think like, dude, we got to get out there because we got to represent for Asians. We're just like, dude, we wear masks, if anything. You don't see that we're Asian. We just wear these masks.
I could see based on your eyes.
Okay, yeah.
He said,
But and then we're like, wow, okay, I guess as a byproduct of what we did, it was like giving permission for people who look like us to now enter these spaces and whatnot. And I again, this coming from somebody who was very ashamed of my Asianness. I was trying, if anything, like unconsciously, I was trying to be white, I guess, because I was like, like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. Shoot, he was the blonde hair, blue eye. I was like, dude, Zach Morris is tight. I'm trying to be like Zach.
Zach Morris is tight.
But yeah, and then
you don't want to be Screech?
No, I'm sorry. Nothing against.
It's Stefan Urkel versus Steve Urkel.
Oh yeah, Stefan Urkel. Yeah, so I mean, like, I had Bruce Lee on the one hand, I had Zach Morris on the other hand, and I'm like, I'm somewhere in between, I guess. But I think so. I'm gonna be very honest. When I've learned to be okay with it now, and I'll just, thank you, and I'll kind of, but when I used to get really annoyed by that, when people are like, yo, man, like putting it on for Asians, like, can you like not, you know? I'm like, that's not what I was doing, but thank you. And I've learned to just embrace, like, hey, you know what? Thank you. Like, I'll receive that, and I'm, hey, if that encouraged you, great, praise God. Like, and so I kind of just accept it. But like, I guess like, so with the work that you're doing and the progression of, we're not in the 80s and 90s anymore, you know, do you see like there's still, I guess I'll call it a lacking or a we still haven't gotten there yet type of thing amongst Asian Americans, maybe even Asian American Christians, even to go even more niche. So how do you feel like, cause you might be that guy where it's like, man, Ray's like, you know, on a ministry level, he's like, he's got the podcast, he's got his organization, you know, he's, you know, like, do you feel like you are the guy that people are maybe looking up to, then like, wow, like I think it's possible. Like, how are you viewing what you're doing, and how are you seeing, is there progression there that's still like, we're still like kind of trailing behind a little bit?
Yeah, so I'd say yes and no, because it, like what you said about your own kind of arrival into consciousness about your Asian American identity, is a very common experience among Asian Americans, especially Asian American Christians. There's almost always this like denial and dismissal of our Asian American identity. There's what we call internalized racism, where we start hating our own kind of race, and we don't call it hate, but it's just this like secret desire not to be what we are, right? And then there's the dance that we try to figure out, where do we fit, where do we belong? And because the church has been one of the few institutions that has allowed us to be fully ourselves, both Asian American and Christian, even though they were never explicit about that, the lack of other spaces has made it hard for those who don't find a home in the church. And so you find it in other places, but you don't know, you're in what we would call a liminal space, right? You're betwixt and between. You're not fully this or you're not fully that, but there's no home. And so part of what you described in your own experience, where you're like, I didn't realize that's what I was doing for Asian Americans by like repping and winning. I've heard that from pastors who lead 99% Asian American churches, and they're like, I didn't know we were an Asian American church. I hear that from Asian worship bands who lead with 100% Asians in the band and say, we did not know that we were an Asian American worship band until people started telling us we were. And what that tells us is, one, we have such low consciousness as a whole that we need to develop a consciousness around this. So we need what I call a race conscious discipleship, right? To understand who we are, how our society has shaped us, because race is mostly about how we are perceived, treated, and experience the world, and then what we internalize as a result of it. One of my friends, actually, who lives just down the street, would say, your race is your face. This is why, sometimes it's tied to your ethnic heritage, and sometimes it's really not. Like, this is why some Latinos look white and some Asian Americans look Latino, and some Latinos look Asian American, and so on and so forth. It's like they get categorized according to what they look like, according to their face, in the same. And here's a great example: twins born in South Africa, one black, one white. They're born to one white parent, one black parent. The white kid grew up a totally different way than the black kid. They were twins. The black kid ended up struggling because of how society treated him, decided his parents treating him the same. The white kid went on and got all the benefits that society offered to him. And I don't think the parents ever tried to treat them differently, but because of the way society treated him, he internalized messages about his value, about his worth. He was treated in different ways that this kid wasn't treated. And I think that's the scary thing about race. Like we talk about how, we were taught how to be kind of Asian American, in our churches or in our homes. It actually was shaped by media. It was shaped by passing comments. It was shaped by X, Y, and Z. And so I don't get offended anymore either. Like mostly because I've either become calloused or I'm just like, oh, this is, I've kind of maybe just accepted the fact that this is the society we live in. But I care about the kid.
For sure.
That lives in the middle of Indiana and
For
is
sure.
gonna. There's one kid that basically. We're ACC is a nonprofit, and we're trying to figure out how do we get funding to a certain level, because we want to do we want to be fully operational. And a couple of years ago, we got this donation in, and this kid who was 14 years old said that I am giving because you are the only people that are speaking out for me, and I'm in a small town where my family is the only Asian American family. We're the only Asian American family in our neighborhood, and we're the only Asian American family in our church.
Wow.
And no one spoke up for us.
Yeah.
And I've been chased down the street. I've been spit on. I've been yelled at just for existing in this society.
Dang.
As a 14-year-old. This is just like 3 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
And those are the types of things I didn't even experience. Right? So it's not like things have actually gotten better. The consciousness and the awareness of how we treat others is
so good.
just not the same. And
Yeah.
so for me, I want to see an elevation of people's understanding of race, because you can't address the things that aren't named. And a lot of times, if we don't name the problem of racism, we're never going to be able to address it.
Well, and also, Scripture teaches us, expose this stuff to the light,
Yeah.
right? Like, His light is going to illuminate it. So it's like, what if we just got real honest and talked about all these things that you, like, preconceived notions and all the gaps and all the places? Like, what if they were conversations instead of wars?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and being able to build that as way people can see, like, oh dang, I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like, because like from what I'm taking away from this conversation too, it's like people are just kind of like being, for a horrible word, but like brainwashed by just perpetual ways of living or amongst community or different ways. It's always just kind of been a way. I don't really know why I feel that way about that. I just do. I'm a product
Yeah.
of my environment.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't talk about it, and we definitely don't educate on it. You know, it's definitely not something in school that's like, hey, let's celebrate all of our different ways. You know, it's like, I mean, maybe there's like a little bit, depending on the school you go to, but I know for sure in my school that was not a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're taking it out more and more, right? The
Yeah.
anti-DEI efforts.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, okay, you know, I just personally think it's one of the ways that the enemy is doing really good at just keeping us fractured as a people of God. You know.
Yeah. I'm just even looking at this table.
Yeah.
This table we come from different places, and it's beautiful. And the meal that we're sharing is a product of, like, we got French fries with some fried rice and some, like
chicken.
rotisserie chicken with the, and it's beautiful. And man, I'm even looking at what we're doing. We're breaking bread. We're sharing a meal.
Yeah.
We're coming around what we all need: food to nourish us, to keep us alive. But then the space invites a safe conversation, and safety doesn't mean comfortable all the time. Like it's safe to talk about uncomfortable things.
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And I think if we were to do stuff like this more, right? Come alongside tables, share a meal, create a safe space to be uncomfortable, and it's okay. And we don't need to leave here with a resolution. We don't need to. So what are our takeaways for today? What are we? Hey, we'll continue this tomorrow over honoring each other. And I believe that that's why Jesus broke bread with people so often. He came around tables. He went to the tax collector's dinner party, basically, to like, hey, I want to hang out with you guys. I want to share a meal. Let's be, intimate and vulnerable. And I don't know what kind of exactly the conversations were at those tables, right? I'm sure Jesus probably asked a lot of questions, and they're probably like, why is he asking us, these questions? And I think if we were to practice more things like this, and again, not to solve anything, it's not going to fix. It will get us closer. It's funny. I was having a meeting this morning with Pastor Scott, who's the shepherd of this house at the lab. We're trying to come up with, like, man, what is the mission, vision, and purpose of the lab, and what are we doing here? And he just wrote 3 words on the whiteboard. He said, "One step closer," and I was like, wow,
So good.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get there,
that's
but
good.
we're gonna get one step closer.
That's really good.
Our goal should be: are we getting one step closer? If we are, then we're doing it right.
That's beautiful.
And I think conversations like this get us one step closer.
I mean, the challenge is people don't know how to have conversations anymore. We
That's
don't
so
know how
true.
to have discourse or discussions, especially around some of the more complex issues, because people don't want to think deeply and wrestle, with depth.
And respect one another.
And respect one another in the process.
Yeah.
But I do think that people are willing to engage in the uncomfortable if they know that you're committed to them as a person
That's good.
and
Yeah.
a community.
That's good.
And so commitment to each other has to precede the discomfort.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you're just dropping, bombs and then you're just walking away.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why I love the Bible's emphasis on covenanting with one
Yes.
another.
So good.
The idea of, like, being a covenantal community where, you're in the lives of one another, and no matter how messy it gets, you're stuck with me, I'm stuck with you. We're life on life, and our job is to sharpen each other like iron sharpens iron, and then help each other grow into the holiness of God, by through sanctification. And that's where the real rub is, because there's so many people today that are socially savvy but relationally stunted. And so they know how to navigate the streets, but they don't know how to navigate relationships with one another. When we were growing up, people were far more relationally savvy and socially stunted. Right? Because people knew like how to interact with people, at least even in a nice way, where you're not like staring off into space when someone's talking. But then they didn't always know how to like navigate social, context.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, and I think we're getting back to that in more space like this, and more just willingness to be present, though it may feel uncomfortable. And I think that's we want to just keep on that path to keep getting one step closer to the destination that we won't ever get to till Jesus, says it's time. You know what I mean? But Ray, so we call our show Good Service. We like to go to these amazing restaurants that provide good food and good service, which creates a good experience, and which is why we keep coming back to these places. Shout out to El Pollo Inca again for the amazing meal.
Send some free food.
Hey, you heard it from Ray.
We like the plug.
We will accept it. But good service can mean different things to different people. Good and service. So what does good service mean to you, Ray?
Yeah. So when I first heard good service, I didn't think about, it's good service at a restaurant. I just thought it was a redeeming and a redemptive type of altruism, a giving of oneself for the sake of the world.
So good.
And so I was like, this is really kind of, it's a nice podcast name. It's transforming the world through humility and service. And you're bringing good into a world where there's so much bad and harm and evil and pain and just desperation to hope for something. And so that's what it means to me.
That's really cool, because most people interpret it the other way, like how I said it. Like, good service at a restaurant. Like, I love the service. That's why I keep going back. But
consumer mentality versus...
I'm just more spiritual than everyone else.
Yeah, you're just more spiritual, dude. I mean, shoot.
They just drop bars.
But that's literally why I felt that was the name of the pod, because there's a play on those words. It's what you said and it's what I said. It's both. And it's like, how did you hear that?
Got that double entendre.
The double entendre. Hey, I love words, man. God gave me the gift of just loving words. And so yeah, thank you. Like I love that that's how you heard it and how you interpreted it. What is a way that we here and our listening audience can serve you in this season through prayer?
Through prayer. I mean, pray that the work of my hands would be pleasing to God and a benefit to the world. And so I think that would be the most helpful thing, and pray for, just the protection of family, protection of friends, the cultivation of the deeper community. And then, I really am concerned about the state of the Asian American church and the decline that we're seeing across the board, not just within the Asian American church, but especially, in including the Asian American church, and wanted to see kind of the Spirit of God move in a way that, is undeniable.
Yeah. We stand in agreement with you, man. In Jesus' name, we pray that. Speaking of that continued work, for those who are curious and or wanting to be more in that work, and if people would want to get connected either to you or the work of what you guys are doing, what's the best way for people to find you guys, get connected, and to follow that journey?
Yeah, so I'm not really good at social media, and so
it's all good.
But connecting with me on social media is probably like the easiest way. On Instagram, it's Ray Chang 502. On Twitter, it's Tweet Ray Chang. I think I'm on Blue Sky and on Threads. You can email me at Raymond at aachristcollab.com. I think this is the first time I've actually given out my email like that. And so send me a nice email. Don't troll me. I get a lot of trolling emails.
Don't troll me.
Yeah, and then, those are probably the best ways to get connected.
For someone who's not on social media, you definitely have all the social media.
I know.
I don't even know what Blue Sky is, bro. Like, what is that?
It was the replacement for Twitter.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, all right, yeah. We'll definitely plug all that stuff in the caption in the show notes. Ray, thank you so much for coming to hang with us and breaking bread, and thank you for the work that you're doing, man. It's a needed work, and want to bless you in that and pray over that, and you are making an impact for the kingdom, and I love your heart. And man, we just want to bless you with that, bro. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Stewards, thank you so much for stopping in on another episode of Good Service. If you're finding our show brand new for the first time, welcome. But we have a lot of other episodes, incredible conversations just like today in our library. So make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't ever miss an episode. If this is blessing you in any way, send it to somebody. Send it to a friend, a family member, someone that you would think that this conversation might be relevant to. You can also really help us out with gaining visibility on the podcast charts by liking and giving us a rating. 5 stars are always great if you think we deserve it. Write us a review. It could be anything, a question, guests that you would want us to bring on, just observations of what you learned, or even what you disagree with. Hey, it's all welcome. But leaving us a review also just helps us get visibility. And if you would like to support the podcast financially, best way to do that is become a Patreon subscriber. Log on to patreon.com/goodservicepodcast, and you're going to get exclusive Patreon only content on as a subscriber. And really where the finances go to for the podcast is blessing us with meals. This stuff's not free. Sometimes we get, today a friend blessed us with it, but this stuff costs. And so you can bless us with a meal, and essentially you're helping us keep the lights on and supporting our team, our incredible team that edits and produces and social media, all this stuff. So we want to be able to bless them. More than that, we ask for your prayers. The Lord is the only reason why we're doing this. And so just for us to have discernment, wisdom, and steward this as best as we can, how the Lord would want us to. So we would love your guys' prayers. But we appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you on the next episode. Good service. We out of here. Peace.